One of my first biggest memories while starting my freshman year in college was being invited to a frat party during my first week on campus. As a small town kid from Texas, experiencing a frat party was a transformational moment. It was legit, just like the movies. Packed rooms, sharing drinks, and unclean restrooms. Bats from China may have started the virus, but frats from America might ignite the second wave. The World Health Organization last week even announced that young people are emerging as main spreaders of the coronavirus, a worrisome trend that experts fear may grow in the United States as more colleges begin to open. This is not just about frats and sororities. This is also about the travel between states that have it under control and states that have kids coming from high-risk areas arriving on campus. The Wall Street Journal took enrollment data from fall of 2018 just to get an idea of travel patterns from students who choose to go out of state. What the research showed was that as many as 77,000 first-year students left states where the virus is now more prevalent to go to colleges in states that now at lower risk. New York, Pennsylvania, Colorado, and Massachusetts are the low-risk states whose schools draw the most freshmen from states now considered high risk, or have reported more than 100 new cases per 100,000 people within the past 2 weeks. So as these new students come on campus looking to make new friends and connections, they become interested in meeting people. And oftentimes, the first option to do that is through Greek life. Unfortunately, this is accelerating the rise in cases around the country. The University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill started school August 10th, but last Monday, on the 17th, the school decided to close already when 177 students tested positive for the virus from outbreaks that sprung up in residence halls and a fraternity house.
After just a week of classes, UNC Chapel Hill announced Monday that all undergrads would shift to remote learning. I
got to speak with Brenda Palacios, an incoming freshman who moved on campus August 8th and was already packing up to go home the same day as our conversation on the 20th. Brenda had the option to go 100% digital from the beginning. So I asked her, why did she choose to come on campus?
My background, I'm Guatemalan. I'm a first generation student. My family is also like a family of immigrants. So it's really a great opportunity to really be able to come to such an amazing school, to like get the opportunity to have an education, because many people don't and aren't able to achieve that goal. The reason why I came was just because I wanted to have a greater internet access to just like study and focus on my work. And also, have that like special space to just focus and dedicate my time to just like, involve and like develop with my studies. But unfortunately, like it didn't last too long. But even so, like I'm so grateful that I was able to come for at least this first week and a half and be here to just like witness like the landscape of the campus, the atmosphere of the students. At least with the people I surrounded myself with, they were very friendly, so kind, so energetic and enthusiastic about like being here. And so, yeah, like I feel like the experience, at least I've accumulated during this week, has been like a mixture of emotions, but it also hasn't been one that's been a waste. I think we've all learned kind of this lesson that it's important to stay safe. During these times, it's not going to be the same as like we've seen it in the past. But it's just time to like kind of start being creative on how to connect with others and how to stay connected and, in a safe way while also taking care of our loved ones and ourselves, of course.
UNC was housing about 5,800 students on campus, less than 2/3 of normal capacity. I asked Brenda what happened from her and her dorm mate's perspective.
A few students decided to party, especially like in sororities and fraternities. That weekend, there were already 130 students tested positive, and then about like 350 students who were in quarantine. And within those 350, I actually had 2 friends who were like sent home to like stay with their families and like, stay isolated for like 2 weeks. And so it was like it was starting to become very real, like, oh my gosh, how can this really happen, all of a sudden so quick, and how can it spread so easily, right?
North Carolina Chapel Hill is not the only school making adjustments. Auburn University said a number of their students are quarantined after 4 COVID-19 cases were reported on campus halls and in a fraternity house.
A number of Auburn University students are on lockdown tonight in a residence hall and a fraternity house after COVID-19 cases were confirmed on campus. University leaders did not say how many students are quarantined at this point. They also did not name the fraternity or dorm. The students will remain quarantined until each receives medical clearance. That's despite a massive COVID-19 testing effort for returning students and a campus-wide mask mandate.
Michigan State University also had 187 people, which was linked to an outbreak at a college bar in July. North Carolina State University said on Thursday that it will have to cancel all in-person classes following a series of off-campus parties. More than 500 students are now in quarantine or in isolation, according to a letter from the school chancellor, Randy Woodson.
We've seen behaviors off campus that frankly are inconsistent with our community standards and have had an impact on our ability to go forward.
NC State identified coronavirus clusters off campus and in Greek Village houses, reporting more than 500 students in quarantine or isolation.
The University of Texas plans to start school August 26th and already started bringing back students August 15th. I got to sit down with Professor Art Markman, who teaches psychology at the university and is the chair of the academic working group for the Fall Planning Committee on campus. And I wanted to get his perspective. I must note that this interview happened right when the news came out about UNC Chapel Hill.
Our decision to be willing to open the campus is a bet on our students and a bet that our students are willing to act responsibly.
Like UNC Chapel Hill, most UT students chose to stay at home or do classes online, which I feel doesn't get fully communicated when reading headlines in the media.
Find out that actually 75% of our seats this semester are online. We certainly want even those students who are in town, even if they're not in class on a given day, you know, they want to come to campus and sit on the lawn or sit in a chair outside and hang out. You know, we're encouraging that. We want people to be part of the campus, but at the same time, we have to recognize that there's a serious pandemic going on, and so we've been careful to focus ourselves on how do we give an in-person experience for those things that really need it, and I think that message has gone through the campus fairly well. Yes, backgrounds, you know, public universities are engines of upward economic mobility. We have students who come from rural areas. We have students who come from inner city areas. They have terrible broadband access. They may not have a private place where they could sit and study in peace and quiet. They may not have people in their vicinity who have an education background that might be able to help them with some of the work that they're doing the way that they would if they're on campus. So that campus experience is actually really critical for many of our students. It's part of what will enable them to succeed. And so we want to provide that environment for our students. You know, I think
after speaking with Brenda and Professor Markman, I understand there's a need to have optimism and hope in young people. As we've seen young people recently step up during the Black Lives Matter movement and the largest civil rights protests in history. I also understand that opening colleges is an economic and equity decision. However, if Greek life can't seize the moment, we must take a hard look at postponing rush and closing down large frat and sorority houses for the remainder of the year. I'm not saying this will stop all parties, but the motive for these parties is to recruit new members. And these frat houses are massive, where hundreds can gather. It would be really hard to reproduce that experience if you were forced to live in bungalows and apartments with strict rules. If we can't find a solution, we know what we have to do. We have to be the cop that shuts down the party for all students and send our students home. Thank you for checking out This Week in Education.